This short video is part of a series designed to highlight how ServiceNow customers can start to identify process improvements using process mining evaluation projects that have been made available to them as of the Xanadu release. In Yokohama, we added 2 more evaluation use cases, and this session will focus on one of them, specifically for HR case management. These projects were designed to give some examples to every ServiceNow customer the power of process mining in their own data. And these curated projects will allow our customers to provide examples of how inefficiencies exist in their environments. And for this example, we'll focus on HR case management that you see here. And depending on your role, if you have an HR role, you should see the HR evaluation project in your process mining workspace. So let's get started. And the first place you would find these evaluation projects is in the process mining workspace. You can find them in the workspaces tab and search for that workspace. So right from here, we will search for process mining, and you can find that workspace and bring you to this process project screen. You'll see one of 3 projects, or perhaps all of them, depending on your role. If you have an HR role, you should see this evaluation project available to you. It will be in one of 2 states, new or available. If it's a new, it hasn't been analyzed yet. If it's available, we can dive in right away. But just to give you a quick run through on how we should analyze this, if we need to analyze it, we will go to the 3 dots in our card for our project and select the Mine Project Sample. Then we can begin. Once the analysis for that project, for the HR evaluation project, is completed, we'll be able to dive into the results of that project. When we open that up, we will come to the summary and insights initially, which will give us some metrics and analytics of the data we've looked at. The first thing we see is some evidence of the data itself. We've analyzed 2,700 HR cases. We're also seeing an average duration of 15 days for closure, when we also see some important information around the average time to completion, as well as distribution of records by time to completion as well. As we scroll down, we see some other great information in terms of improvement opportunities, which is surfaced by both rule-based and pattern-based detectors that we included within the evaluation project, which will also expose a wealth of potential improvement opportunities for your HR cases. We're not going to dive into those details and capabilities in this recording. We'll do that in others that we'll post as well. In this session, we're going to focus specifically on one use case for HR cases, and it's to identify cases that are multi-hopping between assignment groups. We're going to do that within the Analyst Workbench, and that is located here. We're going to tab over to the Analyst Workbench and look at that process. So the first thing we see is an overview of the discovered process map, which will indicate 2 things that are changing within our HR case. Those being the HR state of the case, as well as the assignment group, as they transition through the life cycle of the case itself. In this analysis, what we really care about is what is changing from assignment group to assignment group. Initially, within this view, we're only seeing 20% of the connections within the HR cases. I mentioned initially that there are 540 routes to closure, which means there are 540 independent routes of closure for those 2,700 cases. What we're seeing now is only 20% of them being visualized. We can expose more by sliding this slider bar for connections over into seeing more complexity, and you can see this complexity become more dramatic, especially when we have multiple activities like state and assignment group. But in this case, what I really want to focus on is the assignment group, and let's focus on that now. So what we're going to do is actually focus here in views, and we have this ability to further narrow down what we want to look at in the process map and dig into this. So let's dive into that and focus on just assignment group. Now, when I did this in my instance, I had this pre-initialized to look at this view and gave me that view very quickly. In your instance, that'll do a background process, which will happen in moments. You can see those in the scheduled tasks here. If you open this up, you will see them go into in progress and complete. It'll take a few moments to build this view. When it's done, you'll get a dialog box that indicates that it is complete. But the same thing here, we're only seeing 20% of the connections for my, as my assignment groups transition from assignment group to assignment group through its life cycle for a case. I'll do the same thing here, increase the connections to get a better view of how work is progressing from start to finish for my HR cases. Now, what's interesting here is that we clearly see we do have some cases that are going from multiple assignment groups to multiple assignment groups. That might be indicative of potential inefficiencies that we may not need to happen, or perhaps we can reduce. But it'll be good to understand those cases that are absolutely transacting multiple assignment groups, and how do we do that? We do that by using transition filters. And that is located down in the advanced filters at the very bottom left, and having that ability to use these advanced filters is in fact very easy to use. Let's dive into it. So let's open up a transition filter. And in this case, we're going to build a view that we care about. In this case, I want to see all my HR cases that have gone from one assignment group to another. So it's a simple filter. We're going to say assignment group is anything. We don't care what assignment group it is. I'm going to say next activity directly followed by another assignment group. And we don't care what it is. We'll say it's not is anything, and we'll just hit apply. So this will focus and surface every case that has gone through at least 2 assignment groups. And in fact, this is what this represents. So out of the 2,700 cases that we initially started with, we now have 565 cases that have done this. And we also get to see, using our breakdowns, which assignment groups that have done it, the quantity, the average duration, all of the breakdowns that we have available within the evaluation project, which we have 4. HR service, assignment group, opened up by department, as well as priority. So we have an opportunity to further dig into any one of these to understand which ones are the contributing factors of what cases that are multi-hopping across different assignment groups. And right here, we can see from an assignment group perspective, we can actually look at most records. Our biggest contributor to that is our data services general inquiry. Our next biggest one is manager change. But we can also look at other things as well in terms of which assignment group is doing it the most. But you get a sense of how we can dig into each one of these and start drilling into every specific one. So let's open this up to 50% to take a deeper dive. And right from here, as I look at this, if I look at the different transitions, it's very interesting to see right away that a good chunk of these are going to global talent. In fact, even the ones that are going to global talent that are, again, going to global care, global people care, it's taking an additional 5 days, a big bucket of time right there. So right from here, I can start analyzing this data and getting a sense of what contributed to this happening. So my global talent team, I'm saying it's out of the 565, 416 of them are going through global talent, a majority of them. In fact, if we look at this, we do see multiple cases happening with repetition, up to 3 times. And we get a sense of understanding where these are coming from and where they're going to as well. And even from here, we can start investigating. Within your instance, you'll have the ability of showing records and looking at the actual cases to get an understanding of what is contributing to those, on the reason on why they're going to global talent to begin with. And right from here, I can click this and it'll build a view of those records in the background for you to start reviewing. In a fully licensed environment, we also have other investigative tools like requester intent, which analyzes the short description, the unstructured data, to give me further detail and evidence of what caused, what clusters of cases that attribute going into global talent, as well as root cause analysis would provide some contributing factors like which HR service or which priority are the big primary causes of going to global talent. So you have the ability of digging into both the assignment groups as well as the transitions between the two. And you get additional capabilities here as well in terms of understanding that transition itself, where we see from global talent to global people care, it's taking an average of 5 days, a big bucket of time, where these just 62 records, there are 10 months of time. That's an inefficiency that we potentially could reclaim if we could reduce that 5 days. And right from here, we can also do an investigation. Not only look at records, but again, as I mentioned earlier, other investigative tools. On transitions, you also get the ability of analyzing the work notes, where there's a treasure trove of information that the HR agents could be providing here to contribute and understand why that transition took as long as it did. So if we look at the different assignment groups, we have an ability to start digging into potentially uncovering some big gaps and understanding on where we should focus. If I look at our breakdowns, this could also give us an ability to dive a little deeper into the biggest offenders or contributors of these the reassignments. And I see that these reassignments for HRS Global, well, this average duration of 2 months seems to be very high. Even though it's only 28 records, this seems pretty extraordinary. So we can dive into just those and start looking at HRS Global from an assignment group perspective, as well as these are only the ones that have been reassigned at least twice. And we can do the same thing here. Get an understanding of just these 28 records in terms of, okay, well, we have a good majority of them going through these 2 assignment groups first, then going to HRS Global. Which type of cases are these? Can these be potentially serviced better by the 2 initially assigned assignment groups in terms of being able to resolve these cases the first time? Again, so we can do the same thing, build that view and start looking at those records, and again, get a clearer view of how and why those cases went into that reassignment. Even looking at simple things like the short description and looking at large numbers of similar short descriptions give me an idea to where potentially we can do better by perhaps an automation or better routing that case to the team correctly the first time. Another key thing to leverage is our variation analysis. So I'm going to have the ability to look at some of the variability which could be impacting our ability to close a case as well as it relates to a reassignment. So for these cases that are assigned to HRS Global, we can look at our variations and start looking at what is our optimal path or least optimal path. So it looks like for these, it's going from global talent to global people care and HRS Global. You can see that at the bottom of the map. And we can start looking at not just the longest average duration, but also the most steps. Show me the ones that are having the most steps that could be providing some inefficiency and maybe going beyond where we expected to. One last thing I do want to show as we build these views, and they can become, as you can see, very, very flexible. And maybe I want to keep these views because as we build these views, they become scheduled tasks and they're not persistent. You can come to your filter sets and actually save this view. And I did one, you see an example that I did before. This was idle time, more than 1 day to work in progress. But I can save this one and it's going to be multi-hop. multi-hop view, and we can save that. So now when we save this, we can always come back to this very quickly, and I don't have to wait, and it's available for me at any time. I hope this was helpful to everyone within the HR teams. There's lots of opportunity to improve, and I hope this will spur some creative juices with all of the teams in terms of providing some questions we want to answer of the data we have within an HR case. Thank you.